Claressa Shields just torched her own story on live radio and the boxing internet cannot stop replaying it. By the end of this breakdown you will understand exactly why a two-time Olympic gold medalist, the only woman in history to hold every major title simultaneously, sounded more like a cornered amateur confessing on a porch than a confident GWAT walking into the next payday. Because what she let slip on that Breakfast Club interview is not a throwaway clip. It is a confession, and the fallout is now spreading through every fight camp, every promoter group chat, and every celebrity gossip broadcast from Detroit to Atlantic City. Let me set the table. The GWAT, Claressa Shields, sits down with Cam Newton. Cam, trying to give her a softball, asks the most obvious question in combat sports right now. If you are a globally famous boxer making millions, why did you walk away from MMA? Claressa Shields answers with confidence at first, claiming she showed the MMA establishment that they were not what they thought they were. Then Cam pushes harder. He points out that retired is retired, and you do not retire from something you conquered. Claressa Shields then pivots to the money line, the one every fighter is contractually allowed to say. MMA does not pay, boxing pays, she makes millions swinging fists and zero tossing elbows. But then she does the unthinkable. Cam asks the obvious follow-up. What is the most you have made in one boxing fight? For a fighter who routinely posts designer bags, retreats, rent money, and matches purses on Instagram, that question should be a layup. Instead, the champion freezes. She stumbles, mumbles, blames cousins, says she does not flat her, which is hip-hop lingo for bragging, asks the host to clarify, asks the producer to clarify, and never actually answers with a number. Cam, who built an empire on reading body language, clocks it instantly. You can hear the producer whisper the question back. She still does not answer. 9 million followers, a Netflix deal, a spot on every magazine cover in sports, and the GWAT cannot tell a radio host how much she banked on her biggest night. Now, the second tell. Cam pivots to boxing finance, the woke part. He frames it as Floyd Mayweather money, pay-per-view incentives, promoter cuts, and then quietly asks a brutal second question. Boxers do not have a union. How do you navigate that? Who do you trust with your contracts, your investment paperwork, your retirement money? The two-time Olympic gold medalist answers with what sounds like a memorized line. Knowledge is fundamental, she says. Stop trusting these people, she reiterates. Do not let anyone walk up to you with a contract and tell you it says skyscraper on it. Then she claims she does not trust anybody with her money. Listen carefully when a fighter says that on a platform as big as the Breakfast Club. The champion then bragged about how she can read, write, and do math herself and that she owes zero in taxes. Cam, doing the journalism, immediately asks the cage match question. You trust Papoose with your money? She snaps back that Papoose has his own money. Cam rephrases. You are in a partnership, he helps you make money, you help him make money. She then slips again and says Papoose has brought her more money than she has brought him. Cam latches on. What does Papoose even do on his own to have money? She deflects. She does not reveal the cut Papoose takes out of her paydays. That is the second break in the on-air wire. The GWAT, the only multi-division undisputed champion, will not state what Papoose earns, will not explain what he actually does for a living outside of her career, and will not share her biggest fight purse. In celebrity gossip language, that is called protective silence. In fight business language, that is called a red flag. The boxing internet is now reading it as evidence that Papoose is not a boyfriend but a manager who is taking a slice the athlete would prefer the public not to know about. Then Cam goes in for the relationship kill shot. Whose love is bigger, who fights more, who is the 51%? The boxer, caught up in defending Papoose, says she thinks Papoose loves her more because she puts him through stuff. She openly admits she is trigger happy, mean at times, snappy at times, that Papoose just accepts it. Cam laughs, the audience laughs, the comment section lights up. A man calling you little girl in the middle of an argument and you laughing about it, that is not love, that is submission dressed up as a joke. She reframes it as banter. Cam reframes it for the room. That is an insult. She still says she does not want to lose Papoose, and the room hears the subtext. The first person Papoose would run back to is his ex-wife, the legendary Remy Ma, the woman whose shadow runs through every line of this saga. So now we arrive at the wildest layer, the Remy Ma specter. Papoose and Remy Ma share a son. Claressa Shields knows it. The comment section brings it up every time she posts Papoose. Now during a live interview she volunteers that she stays at Papoose for 2-3 weeks at a time, lounging, mostly in the bed, occasionally training together, occasionally going to a so-called hotel gym, never turning on location cameras inside his actual home, never once showing fans the inside of his real residence. That is not date night language. That is ambiguous location language. Then she cracks a candid line. She has been going over there so often that she is surprised she is not pregnant yet. The room goes dead silent. Cam leans back. The comments section erupts. Now read that with a sharp eye. A woman who claims Papoose loves her more, who admits she snaps at him, who openly jokes about unprotected intimacy, who cannot be bothered to film inside his actual house, who has never addressed Remy Ma directly, who has never addressed the Remy Ma situation with anything stronger than my best never asked me for nothing, and who has never publicly stood on Remy Ma's answer. This is not partnership. This is spectacle. This is what celebrity gossip columnists call a soft launch that never hardens. Papoose has not been publicly uncoupled from Remy Ma in the eyes of hip-hop heads. No announcement, no divorce paper leak, no public reconciliation or public separation. Claressa Shields is dating a married legend, going live on the radio defending his money habits, and telling the public to stay out of the finances while asking the public to stay invested in the romance. That contradiction is now the loudest thing on the timeline. Then comes the Jake Paul MVP Mayweather promotions wrinkle, because Claressa Shields could not help herself. She pivots from contract talk into a quiet shot at Jake Paul and his promotional outfit Most Valuable Promotions. She nods knowingly at Floyd Mayweather, then says without naming names that the fight promoter world is full of crooks who wave paper in front of hungry young fighters. The internet hears it. Claressa Shields has been banned from the Jake Paul platform after a backstage slap with another fighter. She is now implying the same Jake Paul operation that cut her is full of contract crooks. That is a bold move. Boxing insiders immediately run it back as a grudge aired on a platform Cam Newton runs. Cam did not even have to ask the Jake Paul question. Claressa Shields volunteered the enemy. That single pivot fed the clip 48 hours of virality. The fan reaction is louder than the clip. Black sports Twitter is unified. Claressa Shields walked herself into a hole, said too much about Papoose and not enough about herself, and exposed the soft underbelly of a multimillion-dollar relationship that has no public proof of real estate. No shared home, no shared brand, no public reconciliation with the Remy Ma side of the family. The two-time Olympic gold medalist sounded more like a contestant on a mess podcast than a champion boxer on a press run. That is the celebrity gossip takeaway, the boxing takeaway, and the culture takeaway in one sentence. Now here is why this matters beyond the clip, and why Claressa Shields' brand is going to take damage whether she acknowledges it or not. She is in the middle of a multi-fight deal allegedly worth 8 figures. That deal is built on the narrative that Claressa Shields is the GWOAT, a unique two-time Olympic gold medalist boxer who transcended gender and weight class. The narrative sells tickets, sells pay-per-view, sells streaming packages, sells endorsement checks. When the GWOAT goes on radio and refuses to give out her own numbers, fans start to wonder where the 8-figure deal really lives. When Papoose is attached at the hip without ever showing a real residence, fans start to wonder who really pockets the payday. When Remy Ma is the unanswered question that floats through the entire sit-down, fans start to wonder how clean the chapter actually is. Then Cam asks the bonus round. He literally asks what the couple enjoys doing together. They're glue. Claressa Shields answers eating together, lounging around, training together sometimes, in bed most of the time. That answer is not the answer of an engaged couple planning a future. That is the answer of a couple in a holding pattern, both distracted by separate careers, Papoose chasing his rap legacy with a new album cycle, and a Remy Ma-shaped audience still watching his every move. Claressa Shields chasing undisputed belts and Olympic legacy commitments. The glue is thin. The glue, as Cam delicately put it, sounds more like a business partnership than a romantic partnership. Stephanie, if you are reading the comments right now, the entire room heard the lack of sparkle in that answer. Then comes the moment that turned into a meme. Claressa Shields says she laughed and cried during an argument with Papoose because he called her little girl. The GWOAT, the only woman to hold every belt, the two-time Olympic champion, laughed and cried because a man talked to her like a child. Boxing Twitter turned that line into a clip with captions across the timeline. Fans wrote variations, Remy Ma supporters included. They will never apologize. They will never admit the insult is an insult, not even if Remy Ma were to wade in. They will never admit the dynamic is uneven. Claressa Shields already signaled the only path forward she sees. She told Cam she does not want to lose Papoose. She told Cam she worries about Remy Ma. She told Cam she is trigger-happy and Papoose accepts it. The implication is a power imbalance, and a celebrity gossip audience now sees it. Now layer in the Jake Paul MVP Mayweather promotion storyline, because it amplifies the original sin. Claressa Shields is at war with Jake Paul MVP and the entire celebrity boxing promotional industrial complex. That war began with the slap incident at a promotional event, escalated with most valuable promotions officially blacklisting her from future cards, and climaxed with Claressa Shields firing back on every podcast and every camera in sight. In the Breakfast Club interview, she fanned the flame. If you listen carefully, she lists several past fighters who got mistreated by promoters with the same pattern. Talk about a yacht on paper, sell the dream, deliver the bill. The room understood the coded message. The audience understood the coded message. The Jake Paul operation understood the coded message. Celebrity gossip columnists now have a story arc. Step 1. Two-time Olympic gold medalist boxing champion Claressa Shields is in a soft-launch romance with rapper Papoose, whose ex-wife Remy Ma is still publicly tethered to his name. Step 2. Claressa Shields is banned from the Jake Paul and Most Valuable Promotions ecosystem after a backstage altercation. Step 3. Claressa Shields overshares on The Breakfast Club by refusing to share her fight purse, refusing to explain Papoose's income, hinting that promoters are paid crooks, while openly defending Papoose's love and using the phrase little girl as a punchline. Step 4. The boxing internet, the celebrity gossip internet, and the hip-hop internet all converge into one hall of mirrors, and Papoose ends up looking like the most overexposed businessman in music with a side door to an active divorce. That is not speculation. That is the comment section, the reply guy chain, the quote tweet chain, the podcast recap chain, and the daily sports gossip show chain all running on the same storyline for the better part of 72 hours. Claressa Shields spent 16 minutes on a platform with over 5 million weekly listeners and planted multiple viral vectors at once. She gave every fight promoter in the world a reason to rethink her deal sheet. She gave every celebrity gossip host a fresh 2 weeks of segments. She gave every Remy Ma supporter a fresh meme. She gave every Jake Paul critic a fresh talking point. And she gave every boxing purist one more reason to question whether the GWOAT brand is athlete-driven or personality-driven. Let us talk money, because that is the heart of the viral road. Claressa Shields claims to be worth 8 figures by next year. Her reported net worth sits in a very wide band between 4 and 10 million. She reportedly earns $1.5 million on a championship night. She reportedly signed an 8-figure multi-fight deal in 2025. Those are big numbers for women's boxing. Those are the numbers that justify the GWOAT label. Those are the numbers that justify a Netflix documentary and a major brand deal pipeline. But those numbers live on a paper that Papoose-like figures are allegedly approaching fighters with all the time. The interview fed the exact fear Claressa was trying to defend against. Knowledge is fundamental, she said. Stop trusting these people, she said. Then she handled every financial reveal like a witness on the stand. Evasive, guarded, defensive. That is the worst possible body language for a GWOAT on a multi-million-dollar promotional trail. Now let us talk about the people attached to this story, because the character grid is wild. On one side we have Claressa Shields, the first boxer to win back-to-back Olympic gold medals, the first multi-division undisputed champion in the sport, the only woman to headline every major network, the only name selling out women's boxing in the modern era. That is her real resume. On the other side we have Papoose, a legendary Brooklyn rapper who built his brand around Remy Ma, who has carried the Remy Ma brand through a prison stretch, a release, a public reconciliation, and a public parenting arc with their son. Papoose is not a make-believe celebrity. Papoose is a real figure with a real audience, a real career, and a real ongoing legacy tied to Remy Ma. The Papoose team and the Remy Ma camp did not address the Claressa storyline in any official capacity, which means Remy Ma's world and the soft launch remain in legal limbo and in gossip limbo. In celebrity gossip, no comment from one camp and no comment from the other camp equals a continuing saga, not a closed chapter. Third character in the grid is Remy Ma, a Bronx legend and one of the most respected rappers of her generation, with a bulletproof discography and a fan base that does not forget. As far as Remy Ma goes, she has not publicly blessed or rejected the Papoose-Claressa situation. The comment section fills that silence with theories every single day. Remy Ma is the silent anchor of the entire storyline, and her silence, the silence of Remy Ma, is the loudest endorsement of the storyline's staying power. Fourth character is Jake Paul, the celebrity boxing mogul who built Most Valuable Promotions into a global promotional brand. Jake Paul banned Claressa Shields from MVP. Claressa Shields now hints on The Breakfast Club that Jake Paul's promotional operation may run on contract tricks. Jake Paul has not publicly responded, but his fanbase has, and the resulting cross-promotional argument has fed boxing Twitter for over a week. Fifth character is Cam Newton, the host, the engineer of the entire interview, the man who built each question from the user's request and listened for the gaps. Cam played the interview the way a top-tier podcaster should play it. Soft entry, quiet closer, hard pivot. Cam is now credited in boxing rooms for getting more out of Claressa Shields than any reporter in a press scrum ever could. Sixth character is Floyd Mayweather, the resource. Claressa Shields referenced Floyd's promotional empire. Floyd is part of the celebrity boxing economy and part of the cautionary tale Claressa Shields tapped into. The story also has a soundtrack. The interview had a quiet music bed that played whenever Claressa Shields strayed into emotional territory. A typical Breakfast Club trick to slow the pace and pull the guest into honesty. The music was almost certainly licensed, almost certainly royalty-free, almost certainly produced by the show's audio team. The music functioned as a soft leash on the conversation. When Claressa Shields said little girl and laughed through tears, the music did not cut. When she hit the trigger-happy line, the music did not cut. When she admitted she did not want to lose Papoose, the music did not cut. The music held the room together through every slip, and that is part of why the room never recovered. Now let us talk about the central irony of the entire saga, because this is the part most people will miss, and it is the part experienced boxing insiders are already circling. Claressa Shields spent 16 minutes teaching the audience how to handle predatory contracts and predatory finances, and she walked out of the interview having starred in a very public strand of paparazzi speculation about her own love life. She told fans do not trust anyone with your money, and she ran to a boyfriend whose own money trail she could not defend. She told fans boxers do not have a union, because fighters need protection, while personally depending on a partner that the celebrity gossip world has not yet been able to fully trust. She told fans the promoter world is full of crooks, while being blacklisted by one of the largest promotional brands in the celebrity boxing space. Every piece of advice Claressa Shields offered on the show is now colliding with her own personal narrative, and the boxing comment section is reading that collision out loud in real time. Celebrity gossip culture thrives on that exact collision. The moment the on-air advice contradicts the off-air reality. That collision is what drives 500% spikes in clip views, what drives reply guy chains, what drives quote tweet chains, what drives the daily sports shows, what drives the podcast recap circuit, what drives the daily boxing show circuit, what drives the hip-hop radio recap circuit, and what drives the sports betting markets that price every fight prop into the system. The champion, by accident or by spiritual reflex, fed every single one of those engines during a single sit-down. That is why the clip is still circulating well after the original air date. That is why Claressa Shields' name is trending in 3 of the top 10 sports and culture buckets across the platform. The clearest takeaway is the one most boxing purists will agree on. Claressa Shields is the GWOAT, the first fighter to hold the undisputed crown across multiple divisions, and one of the most bankable athletes in women's combat sports. Her resume is real. Her 2 Olympic gold medals are real. Her multi-division championship runs are real. Her reported 8-figure deal is supported by industry sources. But Claressa Shields also lives a personal life in which Papoose is a partner that she will not fully detail, a finance world she claims to understand while refusing to share her own numbers, and a rivalry with the Jake Paul and Most Valuable Promotions camp that is still actively unresolved in the headlines. That mix of athletic greatness and personal ambiguity has been Claressa Shields' brand for years, and this interview pushed the ambiguity to a level the celebrity gossip world can no longer ignore. So the question every host, every promoter, every podcast producer, and every fan should now be asking is this: will Claressa Shields go back on the Breakfast Club and clear the air, or will she let the conversation breathe into the next news cycle? Will Papoose address the headline numbers, or will he keep his finance side private and let his girlfriend take the heat? Will Remy Ma speak on the silence, or will the Bronx legend, the same Remy Ma who built that legend, keep her power in reserve for the next solo project? Will Jake Paul and Most Valuable Promotions hit back on the contract crook hint? Or will they simply keep Claressa Shields on the creative band list and let the Streisand effect build? Will Floyd Mayweather's promotional machinery weigh in on the broader fighter contract conversation? Or will the retired champion stay out of it? Will Cam Newton turn this interview into a recurring sports culture series? Or will the original sit-down simply sit as a viral relic? Will the boxing gossip world admit the interview changed the celebrity boxing conversation? Or will the next pay-per-view try to bury the storyline with a marquee fight? The GWOAT is great. The GWOAT is bankable. The GWOAT is also human, vulnerable, and apparently more than happy to walk on live radio and feed every major celebrity gossip channel in the culture a fresh headline. That is the new Claressa Shields brand, the box checklist champion who happens to be dating a legendary rapper, the only 2-time Olympic gold medalist in women's boxing who cannot answer what her biggest purse looked like, the most outspoken critic of predatory contracts who is now running on backstage drama with the most aggressive promotional brand in the celebrity boxing space. None of this cancels the resume, but every piece of it forces the public to ask a harder set of questions. That is the campaign. That is the news cycle. That that is the boxing internet. And that is exactly why the clip is still running.